You've been awake for 24 hours. Tired, yes. But while you were noticing that, your cortisol doubled, your inflammatory markers spiked, and nearly half the genes your cells are actively keeping you awake right now shifted their expression pattern. Not over weeks, overnight. Tiredness is the smallest thing going on. Here is what actually happened from the first neuron to the last immune cell, and why the biology underneath one sleepless night is far stranger and more consequential than anyone told you. The simple version first. Your brain keeps a running tab of how long you've been awake. It does this using a molecule called adenosine, a byproduct of neural activity that accumulates in the spaces between neurons from the moment you open your eyes in the morning. Think of it like a slow-filling tank. The longer you're awake, the fuller the tank gets. When the tank crosses a threshold, your brain interprets that as a signal. Shut down, rest, clear the pipes. The feeling you call tiredness is not weakness. It is a chemical instruction, building in concentration, that your nervous system has been sending for hours. Now here is what that actually means at the molecular level. Adenosine is not just floating passively around your brain. It binds specifically to A1 and A2A receptors in a region called the basal forebrain, a cluster of structures sitting at the base of the brain that regulates arousal and attention. Research published in Science in 2020 by a team at Peking University confirmed, using newly developed genetic sensors, that adenosine release in this region correlates directly with neuronal activity during wakefulness, with glutamatergic neurons contributing most of the accumulation. Every hour you stay awake, those receptors receive a stronger and stronger signal. The message they relay is not nuanced. It is simply, stop. Caffeine works not by generating energy. It works by fitting into those same adenosine receptors without activating them, a molecular placeholder that sits in the lock and prevents the real key from turning. The adenosine is still there, still building, still pressing against the door. Caffeine is just holding the door shut. When it wears off, the full weight of everything that accumulated while you felt alert comes through at once. That is not a caffeine crash. That is the tank overflowing. By hour 17 of wakefulness, research from the University of New South Wales by Williamson and Fire, published in Occupational and Environmental Medicine in 2000, with 39 participants, drawn from transport workers and military personnel, found that cognitive and motor performance had degraded to levels equivalent to a blood alcohol concentration of 0.05%. That is the legal driving limit in most of Europe. By hour 24, performance reached the equivalent of a blood alcohol concentration of 0.1% legally drunk in most jurisdictions at the time the research was conducted. Response speeds were up to 50% slower on certain tasks. Accuracy measures were significantly worse. The person sitting behind the wheel at hour 24 is, neurologically, a person who has been drinking. They just don't feel like it, because one of the first things sleep deprivation impairs is the brain's ability to assess its own impairment. That last part is worth sitting with. The prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for self-monitoring, risk assessment, and the awareness that something is wrong, is among the most sensitive structures to adenosine load. It degrades first, which means the more cognitively impaired you become, the less accurately you can perceive that you are impaired. It is not that you feel fine. It is that the mechanism that would normally tell you that you don't feel fine is the first thing that goes. If this is changing how you see what a night without sleep actually does, consider subscribing. There is considerably more of this to come. And if someone you know works long shifts or dismisses bad nights as just part of life, this is worth sharing with them. While the brain is managing the adenosine load, something else is happening in the bloodstream, something the tired-feeling narrative misses entirely. Within hours of sleep deprivation, cortisol levels rise. A study measuring stress hormones in healthy young adults after 24 hours without sleep found cortisol approximately doubling compared to baseline, from roughly 10.8 micrograms per deciliter before sleep deprivation to 23 micrograms per deciliter after. Epinephrine nearly tripled. Norepinephrine nearly doubled. Your body, in the absence of sleep, is reading the situation as a physiological emergency, and responding accordingly, flooding the bloodstream with stress hormones calibrated for a threat that isn't there. Cortisol at those levels does specific things. It raises blood pressure, it redirects glucose toward muscles and away from non-essential processes. It suppresses digestion, and crucially, it suppresses the immune system's normal calibration. Immune cells that would ordinarily be patrolling and maintaining balance are being chemically told to stand down. The body is prioritizing immediate survival over long-term maintenance. It is making a bet. The threat will be short. It will deal with maintenance later. Here is the part most sleep advice skips, not because it is complicated, but because it makes one bad night sound considerably more serious than the wellness industry finds useful. One night of sleep deprivation caused measurable changes in 46.4% of detectable transcript genes, 59.3% of proteins, and 55.6% of metabolites in human blood, according to a multi-omics study published in 2023. These changes had not fully reversed by day 3. Nearly half your molecular profile shifts overnight, not because you are sick, because you stayed awake. The immune cascade that accompanies this is precise and traceable. Sleep deprivation increases circulating neutrophils, the immune system's first responders, white blood cells that are normally deployed in response to infection or injury. With nowhere to go and no actual pathogen to attack, they begin producing inflammatory cytokines, IL-6, IL-1 beta, and C-reactive protein all rise measurably after a single sleepless night. Research from Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center and Harvard Monica Hack and Janet Mullington, published in the journal Sleep in 2007, found that even modest sleep restriction over 10 days produced sustained elevations in IL-6 and C-reactive protein in healthy adults, markers that track inflammation throughout the body. Alexandros Vigontzas at Pennsylvania State University College of Medicine had documented similar IL-6 elevation following sleep deprivation as far back as 1999. A 2025 meta-analysis from Sapienza, University of Rome, drawing on 35 studies and 887 participants, confirmed the pattern holds across multiple nights of partial sleep loss. The brain is not a passive observer of this response. The inflammatory signal originates centrally and propagates outward. The brain reads the absence of sleep as physiological threat, and the immune system answers accordingly. This is not a side effect. It is a cascade, with the brain at the top of it. Your body is not confused. It is doing exactly what it was built to do, mobilizing resources in response to what its systems interpret as sustained physiological stress. The problem is that the stress is an all-nighter, not a predator. The systems don't know the difference. Now consider what is not happening while all of this is firing. During deep non-REM sleep, specifically the slow wave stage, characterized by delta waves measurable on EEG, the brain runs a cleaning cycle. Cerebrospinal fluid pulses through a network of channels surrounding blood vessels in the brain, flushing the interstitial fluid that accumulates between neurons during waking hours. This system has a name, the glymphatic system, identified in humans relatively recently. In January 2026, a randomized crossover trial with 39 participants, published in Nature Communications, confirmed what animal studies had long suggested, that the glymphatic system actively clears amyloid beta and tau proteins from the brain during sleep, transporting them into the bloodstream for peripheral clearance. When participants were sleep deprived, morning plasma levels of these proteins were lower, not because less was produced, but because the clearance mechanism that would have moved them out of the brain hadn't operated. Think of the brain at night like a building with its cleaning crew. During the day, the building is occupied noise, movement, constant activity, debris accumulating on every surface. The cleaning crew cannot work while the building is full. At night, they come in, move through the corridors, clear everything out, and leave it ready for the next day. Stay awake for 24 hours, and the crew doesn't come in. The debris stays. And the proteins that accumulate in the interstitial spaces of the brain, amyloid beta among them, are the same proteins whose chronic accumulation is associated over decades of research with neurodegenerative disease. One bad night does not cause neurodegeneration, but the mechanism by which chronic sleep disruption might contribute to it, is no longer theoretical. It is a cleaning crew that keeps getting cancelled. What science cannot yet say with confidence is exactly how much of this damage persists, or at what threshold of frequency a pattern of poor sleep begins to leave lasting molecular traces versus simply resetting after adequate recovery. The multiomics data showing that molecular changes from a single sleepless night had not fully reversed by day 3 is striking. But the studies measuring truly long-term consequences of repeated acute sleep deprivation in healthy humans, at the molecular resolution now available, are still in early stages. The mechanism is established. The dose-response relationship in humans, over years, is still being mapped. Your body knew something had gone wrong long before you felt it. The adenosine was already full. The cortisol was already rising. The neutrophils were already mobilizing. The glymphatic crew had already skipped their shift. Tiredness was just the last signal in a sequence that had been running for hours, the one your conscious brain was finally slow enough to notice. Tell me in the comments before watching this, did you think of a missed night's sleep as a biological event, or just an inconvenience? The ones that push back on the mechanism are the ones I find most worth reading. The next time you feel that particular heaviness, the one that settles in somewhere around hour 16, the one that coffee nudges but doesn't move, you'll know what it actually is. Not tiredness. Adenosine, pressed against every receptor in your basal forebrain, carrying the accumulated weight of everything your brain has done since morning, asking, with increasing insistence, to be allowed to do the one thing it cannot do while you are awake.